So our unit circle, let me see, I need to grab my unit circle also, right? So, all the recording's going, my identities. I'm gonna grab my unit circle. Let's see, where's my unit circle? Is it in here somewhere? Yeah, there's my unit circle. Got it? Got it. So number one, let's just solve it. Let's solve, what would you do to solve for x? So we are solving.
How can you use thumb?
Oh, there? That happened all the way from this summer. It took that long for it to grow out. I was doing wood with Keegan, and she was helping me, and sweetheart just threw the log on my finger.
Oh.
But she was helping me, so I couldn't get mad, could I? Right? And then this is just because I should wear gloves when I put wood in the wood pile, or on the fire. Should probably put gloves on when I throw wood into the wood stove, right? So, anyway. Yeah, but it doesn't hurt at the time. Right? Just a little cinch, and then later on you're like, oh, that kind of hurts. Anyway.
I like it when Jose, just don't say it.
Yeah, Big Jose.
Yeah, Big Jose. There you go. Okay, so if I had 2x squared equals 1, if we had to solve for x, we would divide by 2, right? X squared equals 1/2, right? We would square root, right? Square root. But how many answers? X squared, how many answers? 2. So I'd get x equals plus or minus the square root of 1/2, right? But if we rationalize this, same answer as square root of 2/2, right? Same answer. Well, let's do this algebra, but with the sign, okay? So let's solve. So divide by 2, sine squared theta is equal to 1/2, right? We're going to square root. And 2 answers. So we get sine of theta equals plus or minus the square root of 1/2. So square root of 1/2 can be changed, rationalized into square root of 2/2, right? So I'm going to change it. So I'm going to rewrite this as sine of theta is equal to plus or minus the square root of 2/2. Well, that's 2 answers, so I'm going to write it as 2 equations. So I'm going to write, okay, I can go sine of theta is equal to a positive square root of 2/2, and sine of theta is equal to negative square root of 2/2. I don't want to forget that my whole goal is to solve for theta, right? My whole goal is to find theta. That's what I find. So I'm really looking for sine inverse of this, but the angle's on the unit circle, right? So theta 1, let's see, square root of 2/2 for sine. Sine's the y value, right? Sine's my y value. So square root of 2/2, pi over 4. There's one answer. Theta 2, now there's another square root of 2/2. There is another square root of 2/2 for the y value. Is that 3 pi 4ths. Well, we also have a negative because of the square root, so negative square root of 2/2. Between 0 and 3, 360. Shoot, they wanted it. Okay, how about 45 degrees? I'm so unaccustomed to degrees, right?
Oh.
I know we are so good at radians, aren't we? We're so good at radians.
So what's the point of doing degrees here besides with
Well, today's homework, the book likes degrees.
Okay.
So, Lauren, it's a great question. I agree. Why do degrees at all, right? And negative square root of 2/2 is going to be at 225 degrees, so theta 3. And theta 4, square root of 2/2 negative, which is at 315 degrees. So I have 4 answers, didn't I? Crazy. That wasn't that hard, though, was it? No. Really wasn't. Okay, so now what do you think about number 2? What do you think about number 2? Let's square root it first, okay? Everybody okay with that? Let's square root it. Square root, square root. So I'm going to have cosecant of x equals, well, square root of 4 is 2, right? Everybody agree with that? But plus or minus 2. Okay, well, I know I'm going to flip it. I know I'm going to flip it. You guys agree? Yeah, so I'm going to go cosecant of x equals 2. Cosecant of x equals negative 2. But I'm going to flip it, right? And then we're going to have a 1/2 and a negative 1/2. So I'm going to have sine of x equals 1/2 and sine of x equals a negative 1/2. And again, that's on my unit circle in degrees. I got to remember I'm doing degrees because it says so right there. 1/2 for sine is 30 degrees. Theta, x1 is 30 degrees. x2, 1/2 for sine is here at 150 degrees. Negative 1/2 for sine. Now, of course, we're going 360, so I'm not going to use the negative angles. I'm going to go and at 210 degrees. Oh, sure, Lauren. Thank you. So I've got my 210 degrees. There's my negative 1/2. My other negative 1/2 here. Normally we would have said negative 30, but since the domain is from 0 to 360, we'll go with 330 degrees, okay? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 angles. Okay? What do you think? Not that bad? Give me thumbs up or sideways thumbs or wherever you're at. Okay? Not? Okay? Okay. Now, before we do example 3, let's look at a piece of algebra. X squared minus 3x minus 4 equals 0, okay? So let's go back to algebra. How would you solve for x? Factor. So we'd have an x minus 4, x plus 1 equals 0. And then we do our mini equations, right? Everybody agree? So let's do the same thing with cosine. Let's go cosine of theta minus 4, cosine of theta plus 1 equals 0, right? I've got my mini equations. I've got cosine of theta minus 4 equals 0 and cosine of theta plus 1 equals 0, right? And I'm just going to keep solving. Plus 4 plus 4. Cosine of theta equals 4, not in this unit circle. Do you mind if I cancel that out and throw that out? Why did I throw that out?
Because it's
Bigger than 1. Totally right. Everybody agree with that? Bigger than 1, unit circle has a radius of 1, so throw that one out. Thanks, Kai. Minus 1, cosine of theta equals negative 1. And that happens only in one place, right there. So in this case, we only got one answer, didn't we? Only one answer. We do it in radians? Nope, degrees, so 180 degrees, okay? So theta is equal to 180 degrees, okay? Okay. You guys all right? Now, here's the dilemma with example 4. In a sense, you have x's and y's. You cannot solve for x or y when you have both. You can't. So what I'm going to do is change cosine into sine. So the trick I'm going to do is I'm going to change cosine into sine. Here's the identity I know. We know that cosine squared of theta is equal to 1 minus sine squared. Okay, that's an identity we have. Yeah, so we're going to change this cosine squared into, so everything's in terms of the same variable. So sine squared theta minus sine theta equals, a 1 minus a sine squared theta. Okay, so I just used my identity and did a substitution. Now everything's in terms of sine. All right, if I had x squared minus x equals 1 minus x squared, what would you do?
Plus x squared.
Right? Everybody? Yep, I bring over the x and the 1, and then I'd probably factor. You agree with Kai? So I'm going to go sine squared theta minus sine theta plus a sine. So if I add a sine squared theta, and then if I go minus 1, right? Because I brought over the 1, I'll have a 2 sine squared theta minus a 1 sine theta minus 1 equals 0. And I'll stop. And I'll let you catch up, okay? So I brought over the sine. So I brought over the sine squared. I had to add it, which made 2 of them, right? You okay with that? Brought over the sine squared. Sine squared plus sine squared is 2 sine squared. My sine, and I brought over that. Now, let's go back to some algebra. If you had to factor this, okay, a little algebra, if you had to factor this, probably 2x, x, right? 1 and 1, and I'm probably going to have a negative and a positive. I think that's how it would factor. To get a middle term of negative 1. You guys okay with my factoring? Because that should make the negative 2 positive 1. So let's do this in terms of sine instead of x's. So we're going to go ahead and factor it into a 2 sine of theta, plus 1 minus 1 equals 0, okay? Then we have our mini equations. All right. 2 sine theta plus 1 equals 0, and sine theta minus 1 equals 0, right? And I'm going to solve. Minus 1, divide by 2. I'll come back to it. Sine of theta equals 1. Okay, and I'll wait for you, okay? So I solved both mini equations. Both these answers are on the unit circle, which is pretty cool. I like that. So I'm going to go to negative 1/2 for sine is at 210 degrees and also 330 degrees. Okay, I've got 210 for negative 1/2 and 330 for negative 1/2. So my first two answers, theta 1 is 210 degrees. Theta 2 is 330 degrees. Sine of 1 only happens in one spot. Sine of 1 happens here at 90. So this time we get 3 answers, not 4, not 2, not 1. All right, what do you think? Okay, so I've got 8 problems, that's all. I'm going to work together. If you want to